We often think about innovation in really big ways, but sometimes it's the everyday stuff, like paying rent, that could really use a shakeup.
Absolutely. For landlords, it's often juggling late payments, chasing people, all that admin.
And for tenants, it's remembering the date, maybe figuring out how the landlord wants to be paid this time. It can be a bit of a drag.
It's this fundamental transaction, but yeah, it's not always smooth.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a company called Keychain Pay. They seem to be trying to change all that.
Right. They talk about smart tenancy and intelligent renting.
Exactly. And it sounds like their whole approach relies heavily on rethinking the old rent payment model using AI.
That seems to be the core of it.
So, our mission today is to really understand what their model is and, crucially, how this use of artificial intelligence actually makes them different.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so starting right at the beginning, what's the core idea behind this new rent payment model they're putting forward?
Well, at its heart, Keychain Pay is about automating rent collection. They use something they call a smart contract.
A smart contract. Sounds techy.
It basically functions like a digital agreement. It pre-authorizes the rent collection automatically on a recurring schedule.
Ah,
Okay.
so it takes away the tenant having to manually send money every month.
Precisely. Once it's set up with their preferred payment method, the system just handles it.
And what are the options for tenants to pay?
They offer quite a few, the standard credit and debit cards, but also, the mobile options like Apple Pay and Google Pay. Pretty convenient.
Covers the main bases. Now, I also heard there's something different about when the payment actually happens.
Yes, that's a really key feature, especially for the landlords. It's called advance rent collection.
Advance. How far in advance are we talking?
Their system is set up to initiate the charge anywhere from 1 to 10 business days before the lease effective date.
Wow, okay. Up to 10 business days early. That's quite a shift from paying on the first. What's the thinking there?
The main reason is to, well, essentially eliminate rental arrears. Late payments are a huge headache for landlords.
Right, so by getting the money before it's technically due.
They aim to make sure landlords get their income exactly when they expect it. They actually guarantee on-time income.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah, they even say no fees if we miss it.
That's a strong promise. How do they manage that risk? Must involve some kind of buffer, right?
Presumably, yes. Some kind of internal mechanism or perhaps insurance. It does make you wonder, how sustainable that is if there were a sudden spike in payment failures. Something for you, the listener, to think about when looking at services like this.
Definitely food for thought. Now, what about transaction fees? Who pays those? Credit cards aren't free.
That's actually flexible. When the landlord sets up that smart contract, they get to choose
Choose what?
whether they, the landlord, will absorb the transaction fees or if the tenant will pay them.
Okay, so customization there. Puts the control with the property owner.
Exactly. They can tailor it based on their specific property or, what's normal in their market.
Makes sense. So, beyond just getting paid on time, what else does this system do for landlords? You mentioned admin earlier.
Right. They really emphasize automating the administrative chores. Things like generating and sending rent receipts, statements to tenants. That all happens automatically.
Takes that off their plate.
Yeah. And they also talk about customized integration with existing property management software.
So it fits into what landlords might already be using.
That's the idea. And they suggest this level of automation could lead to, well, needing less manual effort, potentially even saving headcount is the phrase they used.
Okay, I can see the appeal for landlords. Smoother payments, less paperwork. So that's the basic model. Now let's get into the really interesting part, the AI. How is artificial intelligence actually, woven into this?
AI, and specifically machine learning, isn't just an add-on. It seems to be fundamental to how the Keychain Pay platform operates.
It's the intelligent renting part.
Exactly. It's not just processing payments. It's analyzing data, learning from it, trying to make the whole system better.
Okay, so give me an example. Where does this machine learning actually kick in during the process?
A really critical area is payment authorization. When a payment is attempted, their ML algorithms look at way more than just, like, the card number and expiry date.
What else are they looking at?
Things like the specific card details, sure, but also the tenancy agreement information, wider market payment trends, even how the user is interacting with the platform, the device they're using.
Okay. Why all that extra data?
It helps them build a much more accurate picture of the risk involved with that specific transaction. This is apparently really useful when tenants want to split payments across multiple cards.
Ah, split payments. Yeah, that can sometimes look a bit suspicious to traditional systems.
Right. Their AI is likely looking for subtle patterns, stuff that simple rules might miss, to figure out if it's legitimate or potentially fraudulent.
And how good are they saying this AI is at catching fraud?
Well, their claim is pretty bold. They state they've completely eliminated card fraud, abuse, chargebacks, and disputes on cards since they started.
Eliminated, as in zero.
Zero, that's the claim. And they also point out they've done this with, apparently, minimal need for things like two-factor authentication prompts.
Which suggests their background AI risk assessment is doing the heavy lifting.
That's the implication. They believe it outperforms standard industry practices significantly.
Zero fraud is, well, it's a huge claim. You have to wonder how exactly they achieve that. Are there specific technologies or protocols they're using that are that different?
That's a fair question. It would be interesting to see, independent validation or maybe white papers detailing how they manage that outlier result. It's definitely a key selling point, if accurate.
Absolutely. Okay, so the AI helps prevent fraud, but I also saw something about them using AI to create their own kind of credit score.
Yes, that's another interesting application. Their machine learning algorithms generate a proprietary credit score for tenants who use keychain pay.
But it's not like a FICO score, right? It's different.
Correct. It's not a traditional credit score that pulls from your whole financial history. It's based specifically on the tenant's behavior within the keychain pay system.
So things like, do they pay on time using the platform?
Exactly. Payment timeliness is key, but also payment patterns, even how responsive they are if the platform needs interaction. It builds a picture of their reliability as a renter through this system.
And what's the immediate use for that score?
Right now, they primarily use it internally to optimize the timing of when they charge the tenant's card.
Ah, to further reduce the chance of a payment failing.
Precisely. And to minimize that gap where the funds are in transit. But they also hint at a bigger potential future use.
Which is?
But they suggest this score, as it develops over time, could potentially serve as an alternative credit reference for banks.
Oh, interesting. So for people maybe without a long traditional credit history?
This could potentially help them demonstrate credit worthiness, at least based on their rental payment history.
That could be significant for financial inclusion. Though I guess you'd have to ask, is this creating a sort of closed-off credit system? How useful is that score if you move to a property not using keychain pay?
Good point. Portability and wider acceptance would definitely be questions down the line if they pursue that alternative credit reference angle.
Okay, lots happening with the machine learning side. They also mentioned generative AI. What are they doing there?
They've developed multilingual AI agents, basically chatbots, designed to support property managers.
How so?
These AI agents can handle routine questions from tenants 24/7. Things about their tenancy agreement, rent inquiries, even general advice on, say, simple home maintenance issues.
Like a first line of defense for tenant queries.
Exactly. The idea is the AI handles the common, repetitive stuff, freeing up the human property managers for more complex issues that need a personal touch or, actual intervention. It can also escalate issues to the human managers when needed.
So for you listening, if you were a property manager, this could potentially mean fewer interruptions for basic questions.
That's the value proposition.
So when you compared this whole AI-driven approach, the proactive payment collection, the fraud detection, the Gen AI support, how does it stack up against the old way of doing things?
The big difference really seems to be moving from reactive to proactive. Traditional methods often deal with problems after they happen: a late payment, a tenant complaint.
Right, chasing things up.
Keychain Pay's AI is designed to try and anticipate and prevent issues like late payments or fraud before they occur. And providing that instant AI support aims for, greater efficiency and maybe a better overall experience for both sides.
It's like going from writing a check each month to auto pay, but then adding this layer of intelligence on top that also answers your basic questions.
Good analogy, yeah.
Okay, it sounds like a fairly complete package. Let's just quickly summarize the main services Keychain Pay is offering then.
Sure. So number one is the automated rent collection. Then there's the elimination of rental arrears backed by that guarantee. Streamlined admin for landlords, receipts, statements, integration.
And for tenants.
An improved experience, they hope, through things like potential rewards, the option for split payments, maybe building that alternative credit score, and of course the 24/7 support from the Gen AI chatbot.
Got it. Now, any business like this, especially dealing with money, needs legitimacy. What about their licensing and who's actually using them?
Okay, so they are licensed in the UK. They're a payment institution, or SBI, regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA. So that provides regulatory oversight.
That's important. And clients.
They list some pretty big names, especially in Hong Kong real estate.
Mm.
Developers like Swire Properties, Sino Group, Hang Lung Properties.
Major players.
Definitely. And in the UK, they mention properties like Old Swan in Liverpool and Cecil Street in London. They frame their clients as top real estate developers and next-gen property managements.
So it suggests they have traction with significant businesses, not just a startup with an idea.
Right. They seem to have established partnerships. And they also mention a partnership with MasterCard,
Okay, so integrated with the major card networks.
which helps with reach and presumably the robustness of their payment processing.
And finally, the elephant in the room for any financial service, security. What are they saying about protecting data?
They talk about a few layers. Banking-level encryption for data, both when it's moving and when it's stored.
Standard practice, hopefully.
Yes. Then there's credit card tokenization. This is key. It means they don't actually store the full credit card numbers on their servers after the initial setup. They use tokens instead.
Reduces the risk if there were ever a breach.
Exactly. And lastly, they mention risk-based two-factor authentication. So that extra security step, but seemingly only triggered in higher risk situations, like those split payments we talked about, not necessarily every single time.
Okay, so encryption, tokenization, and smart 2FA. Sounds like they're addressing the core security concerns.
They appear to be, yes, covering the necessary basis for compliance and user trust.
Well, it definitely seems like Keychain Pay is trying to tackle some very real, long-standing frustrations in the whole rental process, using technology, specifically AI, as their main tool.
Precisely. They're offering a model that's quite distinct from traditional methods, leveraging AI to go after those issues of late payments and admin burden. The aim seems to be more efficiency, better security, and ultimately a smoother experience for landlords and tenants alike.
It really does make you think. As AI becomes more embedded in, well, everything we do, how will platforms like this change more than just the transaction? Could they start to reshape the actual dynamics, the expectations within relationships, like the one between a tenant and a landlord?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah, something I think we'll see play out in the coming years. Definitely one to watch.